Thank you. Great being here. My name is Yishai Beeri. I'm the CTO for LinearB, and I'm going to talk about metrics and what you should and should not do in relying on metrics to improve your dev organization. A few words about me. I started my programming career way back in the 80s, back in school, writing early logo programs. Then spent some time programming in C, advanced to use Python as my main programming language for most of my career. And currently I've joined LinearB about 2 years ago, and I'm focused together with the entire team on helping developers improve, helping dev teams, developers and leaders of dev organizations improve. I'm going to talk a bit later in the slides about how we approach this in LinearB. And today I want to talk about the engineering metrics. How, if you want to improve in your engineering work, your software development, you have to measure things. You have to get some metrics. I'm going to describe the journey that the world or the industry has taken and is still taking around how to measure things. I'm going to talk about why that's not enough and double click into the next step or what you need to augment metrics to really get improvement going. And I'll finish with some very practical ideas and also some views of how we approach these questions in LinearB, and then leave some room for Q&A. So developer productivity and how to measure, how to improve is something that's really gaining traction and mindset in the industry. We're seeing almost every dev organization is spending time, spending cycles. The leaders are looking for ways to improve. They all understand that there's, if you're not spending deliberate effort in improving, in being more productive as individuals and as an organization, specifically in software development, you're missing out. This is not an industry that's well optimized yet. And I'm showing here some examples from our Dev Interrupted community for dev leaders, where there's such a lively discussion about those questions exactly. How do we do better? From hiring to managing developers to improving the dev process itself. How do we know it's getting better? All of these are getting a lot of attention, and that is part of the motivation why I'm going to talk about this today. Everyone cares for good reasons. Now let's go look into the details. So engineering metrics, if I'm looking at this journey across probably the last maybe 20 years, maybe some would say even longer. At the beginning, we had nothing. Nothing was measured. We wrote code. Hopefully it worked. We added some more code. Hopefully that worked too. We were able to sell software to customers. But there was no notion of how are we doing? Is this going well? Can we improve? No standard metrics, no visibility. The great part is that ignorance is bliss. You don't care about what you don't know. There's no problems. The bad side, and I think that's obvious, if you're not looking into things, if you're not measuring, if you're not talking about ways to compare something and see if it's better or gotten worse, you cannot fix and you cannot improve. Then came the first steps, or I would call them missteps, in how to measure and create metrics and talk about software development as something that's measurable. I'm talking about the very early days, and some companies still do this today and still measure what I consider the wrong things. But the easiest thing to start with is to measure the output. Can we count the number of code lines, or the number of commits, or even velocity story points? The things that are easy to measure, easy to take out of our development process, are typically two things. A, they're individual metrics. I'm measuring the number of lines of code or number of comments that some developer has created over some period. And that's going to almost always lead into culture pain and into problems. If you're measuring developers, you're stack ranking them, this is toxic for developers, which need to be in a trust environment. It's toxic for creativity, and it's definitely the wrong mindset. It's fine to measure machines. Developers are not machines. The other problem with this approach is what you measure is what you get. Do you really want more lines of code? Do you really want more commits? Probably not. If you measure the easy things, you're going to get more of those because people shape their behavior based on how you're measuring. And that's not necessarily going to lead to good outcomes. It's typically very technical measurements where either by gaming or by just adjusting behavior, we create more of those. The metrics go up, everything looks better, but it's not really better. More lines of code does not mean better process, better code, better product, or better value. I talked about the culture pain, and I want to stress this. Developers are special kind of human beings that we like to think of ourselves as creative, as maybe some form of artists in some cases. Measuring developers and rolling out a metrics program top down, thinking this is our way to be data driven, is really, really toxic with developers. And whilst most developers understand the need to measure things, when it comes to stack ranking and saying you did better than this, or this developer is the top developer for the week for creating number of pull requests or code lines, that is going to run afoul very quickly. So if there's one thing you should avoid at all costs, is to focus on individual metrics and measure and stack rank individuals. That is not what you want to do. So a bit about the next step in the journey, the more modern ways to measure software development, to measure the development pipeline and the health. One of the better known frameworks for this is DORA. And DORA puts forward 4 metrics that are based on or split into 2 main categories. 2 metrics look at the speed of my pipeline, the speed of my process for developing code. And these are cycle time, how quickly my work moves through all the stages from beginning of work until it's ready and deployed, and deployment frequency, how often does my team or my organization deploy new code to production, to customers, so we can learn and we can improve. The other 2 metrics are around quality. What is the rate of failures? How often do my deployments fail or result in a failed system? How quickly can we recover from issues once they are found? These are both measures for quality. And DORA, the research underlying DORA shows correlation between good results in these 4 metrics and well-performing teams. And it's a pretty established and accepted way of thinking about how to measure modern dev teams in a way that is not toxic to culture, because all of these metrics are around the team and the process, and how to measure the right things so that you are not creating artificial outcomes like more lines of code that mean nothing to your value or to your speed and quality. So DORA, I will use that as a staple for the modern correct way to measure things. Obviously, there's much more than just those 4 metrics. For example, pull request size or the size of the chunk of work is going to affect a lot of items and a lot of moving parts in my development pipeline. It's going to affect cycle time and deploy frequency. It's going to affect other measurements that are worth looking at, like how long does it take us to review code? How deep does the review go? Are we actually doing meaningful code reviews? So, here are another 3 new metrics: pull request size, review time, review depth are additional modern metrics worthy of looking at. There's a strong correlation or a causality effect. PR size is a leading indicator for faster PRs. If my PRs are small, they will run through the cycle much faster, because People will review them more quickly. They will be easier to merge, less risk to merge, less risk to deploy. Obviously, less time spent actually coding the pull request or the work chunk. And that is why those correlations actually help in shaping behavior and creating better. If you're doing better across these metrics, your output is going to be better. Deployment frequency is another example where by being able to deploy multiple times a day or even continuously, compared to the old way where we deployed over weeks or months, new versions, totally different experience in terms of being able to learn from the new code that is now serving customers, meeting actual use cases in the wild, and giving us a much, much tighter feedback loop. So we went through from no visibility to early wrong metrics that are focused on the individuals and outputs, and then advanced to modern metrics. Like DORA, there is a space framework and others. The Accelerate book puts these forward. This is established work that is the right things to measure, but it's still not enough. And we have seen in Linear B across our customer base that just having those metrics, created, collected, shown to managers on dashboards is not enough to really improve. They're the right metrics, but they're limited to just the managers that care to spend time looking at them. The cadence for consulting the metrics and actually doing something is typically long. Once every few weeks, I will log in to see a dashboard and get some insight about a bottleneck. Maybe my cycle time is blowing up. Maybe I have need to improve my MTTR. These are long cadence. There's a long learning cycle. They tend to be manual. I need a person to go look at the metrics and understand what to do. And when driven in a top-down, which is the typical fashion we've seen so far, it's an all or nothing game. If only 3 of my developers are trying to improve, that will mean nothing in the metrics. Either you need everyone to do better, or a lot of your developers or dev teams to do better before you see some improvement, or before you can take the learnings from those metrics and apply them. So you need to move in large swaths of your dev teams, and only these changes move the needle in the metrics. So it's a all or nothing, or almost all or nothing game if you want to improve. So metrics, and we are at the edge of what metrics can do today. Metrics alone are not enough. They're not something you can rely on to really improve your dev team and process. And I'm here to suggest the next step, or the addition of the next phase, which is developer workflow automation. So if there's one takeaway from today's session, you should take away that metrics alone do not improve dev teams. They're great for a start. They are crucial if you want to improve anything, but they're not alone, they're not enough. So dev workflow automation. I'll put the outcome first, and then talk a little more about what it actually is. I'll show some examples. But moving from metrics to automation means, first of all, you are focusing on the people that actually do the work. You're not focusing on managers that consume metrics. You're focusing on devs and teams that are the organs that actually do the work. They are the ones that are improving. They are the ones that will drive the new value. You need to work with them and cater to them. So dev workflow automation thinks about the developer. That's the user, that's the benefactory of everything we do here. Eventually, this will percolate to better metrics and better outputs of the org. But the developer is my user, or my counterpart for improving. They're automated, they're not manual. Workflow automation, by nature, is about automation, is about using data to automate and improve processes that are today either broken or prolonged or bottlenecked. And I'll show concrete examples. They need to be configurable. It can't be a one-size-fits-all. So dev workflow automation needs to match the way my team works. It needs to match our rules of engagement, our working agreements on how we treat new code, what's the kind of review process we run through, what is our acceptable times or delays that we want to, how we want things to happen, basically. And when you're talking about automation, this is a daily thing. This is or a multiple times a day thing, not something that happens once a month or once a sprint or once every couple of weeks where someone consults a dashboard. So automation has that benefit that it's always on and it's impacting every PR, every change in the code. It's part of the process daily. And finally, when you are thinking about the problem in that lens, any developer can improve. You don't need an all or nothing. If just 5 developers apply automation and apply those workflow automations to improve their work, they will improve. And you can measure that. Maybe the overall metrics will not move much, but these developers will be happy and their work will be better. So it's much easier to start, and it's not about a all or nothing decision that the entire organization needs to now decide to do something new. This can be done even by just a single developer in a large org, and that developer will feel the difference. So these are all characteristics of the good dev workflow automation solution. I want to take a small interlude to talk about some research that we've done around pull requests and use that to justify or to show a concrete example of why automation can really move the needle for those very metrics or for those very outputs like cycle time and faster PRs and so on. So there's pull request is pretty much the most common or ubiquitous way for teams to advance value through changes in the code base. And there's a baked-in paradox in pull requests. Developer 1 is working on a great feature or just finished solving an important bug. They need someone else's help to review this and get this over the merge line. But the other developer is also busy and working on something else. When that developer is free to review my PR and give me some comments, I have already moved on. I'm not waiting. I'm starting my new thing, and I'm already sunk into that. So almost by definition, I need to chase someone when they're free. I'm not free again. There's a lot of context switches, and the cost of getting back to my work to review those comments and make changes to my PR is growing the longer this process takes. We've looked at our data across a huge number of PRs and teams, and we see that of the entire cycle time, which begins with the very first commit on a branch, the very first coding activity, and ends with the actual deploy, the pull request itself, from creation of the pull request until it's merged, like how long does it take for someone to start reviewing it, which is pickup, and then how long does it take for the entire review to finish, make comments, respond to them, change the code, and eventually merge it, that is about 2/3 of the entire cycle time. So pull requests is a heavy part of the entire development cycle time. And when we have further looked into the data, we see that most of the pull requests are idle. Idle means they're not in anyone's actual active work right now, or even in their recent memory, in terms of hours. I'm talking about long hours where these PRs are touched by no one. Even when you remove the off hours and night and evenings, I'm talking just about work hours. Most of the PRs are in a limbo or wait state where no one is actively looking at them for half or even more of their time. So on the left, I'm talking about the entire set of PRs, and on the right, I apologize for the missing text, these are PRs that take more than a day. So once PRs take more than a day, they even much longer or a larger part of their span is basically spent idle. No one's looking at this. And we've looked at the different types of idle time for PRs. One is the transition idle time, where developer A finishes some work and then transitions the PR. The next step is taken by another developer. Typically, I need someone to review my code. when they're done, they're transitioned back to me to look at their comments and so on. So there's a back and forth. In that transition time, if the PR is waiting for the new developer or the second person or third person to look into it, that wait time is going to be idle. No one's looking at it until they begin to. And all of these handoffs are, first of all, they're creating delays. It's hard to coordinate handoffs without delays. And all of the PRs, you know, at first glance, they all look the same. So there's no special or smart order in which the new developer or the next developer on the chain will actually begin to look at them. And that creates delays for PRs that could be very quick to review and finish if we had that information. The longer we wait and the longer it takes for those comments or requests for changes to get back to the original developer, that's a higher tax on reloading into my memory all that context. What did I actually do here? I need to parse those review messages and also parse my code. And if it's been 2 days since my last commit, that's much harder than if it was 2 hours from my last commit. You know, context switch is an expensive thing, in particular for developers that need to be in the zone. And if I'm already sunk into the next big feature, there's a high tax, and it gets higher the longer this is waited. So transition time is going to hurt productivity. The other type of idle time is distraction. That is when I start to work on something. It could be the actual coding, or I'm starting to review a PR, but it's a long review and I need to take a break. I need to go to lunch, or I have a meeting. And instead of finishing something in one sitting, I need to take a break, maybe overnight, and then I get back to it. This type of idle time, where it's, you know, it's just me, is again, causes me to reload context, to spend more time rereading my own comments, rereading the code that I've just, you know, parsed in the previous session. So the longer distraction time happens and the longer idle time between my sittings looking at a pull request, the higher the tax is going to be. And the typical reason for this is that I may, you know, I'm starting to work on a PR. I only have 20 minutes because I have a meeting or my day ends. And actually this PR takes 2 hours to review, or is a very long and complex review. If I had known, or I had good visibility into how complex this is, maybe I'd have, you know, scheduled time to do this in one sitting instead of just trying to get this done and then needing to take a break. And finally, the last piece of context or insight that we've seen is that when you provide context to the developers in the PR cycle, the context in this form, in this case, was in the form of an estimated review time. If I'm telling you on the envelope of the PR, this is going to take you 5 minutes, or this is a PR that's going to take you 30 minutes to review, then developers and reviewers respond much faster. They pick up those small PRs that say on the tin, I am small, I can be reviewed very quickly. They will pick them up much faster, like almost 20 times faster. So instead of waiting for someone to just begin reviewing my PR for hours or days, as happens in the long PRs, this can be driven to happen in minutes, or, you know, just an hour or two, because the PR is much more attractive and those reviewers know that they can start and finish quickly. They can inject this between their meetings or in other garbage time. And we see that behavior, dramatic change, if they know what's expected, if they know what's going to happen. So to summarize this interlude, there's a lot of wasted time, a lot of eventually cycle time that is wasted and idle in that PR process. If we can somehow reduce that, if we can remove some of that idle time, reduce the time both for transitions and for distractions, then we can definitely work much faster. Our cycle times will improve. Our context switches will go down. And I am hinting here at, these are very obvious things to automate. Can we automate that transition? Can we help people know that something's waiting for them? Can we help them know what is expected of them, like the estimated review time? All of these things are automations, and automation of the communication between developers that is improving the workflow and eventually improving the metrics. But first of all, making the developers happy with less context switches and less time spent just pushing my PR over the fence. So Worker Bee is Linear Bee's approach for dev workflow automation. And we have implemented this in the form of a smart Slack bot or MS Teams bot. And if you look at some of the examples here, the key for dev workflow automation is remembering that there is a human part. There's a lot of machine parts like CI and the systems like GitHub, Jira, and whatnot. But there are also developers, and they are human. They have human behaviors and needs, and they are part of that automation. You need, like, automating with humans around is about how do I let them know that they need to do something right now. So if you look at the middle example here, where I get an alert telling me that Sharon requested my review, this is a way to let me know something is waiting for you right now. And by providing me context, like the estimated review time, I can understand what is expected, and I can make a smart decision about, do I do this now or do I wait? Maybe I need to snooze it. So this is a message, but it actually encapsulates automation. I've automated some of the communication. There's probably an email somewhere also waiting for me, but this comes to me where I live, which is Slack, or my IDE, if that's where I prefer to get my context and automation. It lets me know exactly what's waiting for me. It lets me know what expected, and I can make a smart decision. And then it also tells me information about other, more machine related things like status of the CI. Instead of having to go and manually pull the CI status, I can just, get alerted when it actually is successful or failing and take the next step. And finally, the first example here shows me automation about the team, or about the agreements of how the team wants to work. Here we're looking at a pull request that is languishing in review. It's begun the review, but it's long. It's now more than some threshold that we've set for the team, maybe a day or two. After that threshold, we need to let the team know, hey, something here is out of bounds. Something here has a problem. You can now improve it or solve the problem by clicking on this and helping that review finish, maybe help the team reach a merge decision, or, by giving this attention at the right time, we can move this forward. So this is a team level automation, again, targeting the developers on the team and taking into account how the team wants the metrics to look like. If I care about long review as a metric and as a way to measure the part of the cycle time for my dev process, I can start getting automated alerts when things begin to look bad for this metric in specific PRs, and I can still fix them and make them work much better. So this is an example of a workflow dev automation that covers both individual alerts for advancing the PR, providing me with more context, but also team alerts that let the team handle and track and improve on key metrics that they care about. I'm going to talk through some practical ideas. We talked about metrics that are not enough. You want to automate and ingest into your workflows some of these smart tips or automations or helpers that are, day-to-day, they're ingrained into the process. They're not a after-the-fact metric approach. I'll give you some practical ideas on things that you can implement directly to improve your dev process through those micro automations. So first of all, maybe the first and most important tip is, even before automation, is keep the PR small. When your PR is small, it's not just that the actual coding will be much faster, and that you have well-defined single task, testable, and so on. All those benefits are well known. But all those non-coding parts, all those transition, distractions, all those idle times, everything gets smaller when your PRs are small. PRs are picked up much faster for review. They get faster commits, faster comments, easier to fix them if the comments require you to change things, and then easier to merge and eventually deploy. So small PRs is the first tip. The other tip is about promoting your PR. Again, thinking about the non-coding time, thinking about all that part of the workflow, which is not about my coding work. How can I drive it down? How can I help things move faster? So if I remember that my reviewer, my counterparts that are helping me with the PR are busy developers, I need to help them by providing more data on the envelope. I need to enrich by telling them, hey, this PR, what it is about, what's the related feature or bug, like a Jira ticket, what is the estimated review time, where is the risk, and so on. And obviously some of that information can live in the PR. If I'm able to move that information from the PR to the message about the PR, the notification, even better. So either if it's an email notification or a Slack message or anything else, instead of saying, hey, there's a PR, here's a link, you should look into it, and there you will find the context. No, invest in moving the context to the message itself, because these messages will get lost on busy developers that need to take another click or two just to see what it is all about. And as a developer, I really don't like the experience of getting a link to a PR that someone needs help with, thinking, okay, I'll take a look, it's probably a few minutes, clicking, and then seeing a wall of red and green on GitHub. Oh, this is going to take me that long. I've already begun the context switch, and now it's a waste. If I had that information on the message itself through some form of promotion, like help me promote the request to review with the right context, that really, really helps me. Some other examples, again, small automations that really make the workflow buzz with activity and move much faster. In this case, Worker Bee is telling me someone has just approved my PR. I know my PR. If it's approved now, I can just go ahead and merge it. So instead of clicking to get to GitHub and then clicking merge there, or wherever my Git repository is, let me merge directly from the message. So this tiny merge button makes a huge difference, because now I didn't have to open a new window to move again from my messaging platform to my Git provider, scroll and find the merge button and click it. So that's maybe a small example, but it really makes a lot of difference in the speed in which things happen. Another idea, maybe we can actually push the entire PR into the message. This is an example where there is a small PR, and many of the PRs are like that. Our research shows almost 20% of PRs are about this size. Just one file, just a few codes, one or two or maybe 5 lines of code have changed. In many cases, I can just review this directly in Slack. So show me if it's small enough, show me the context directly in the message, let me approve, or maybe click on request changes to go to GitHub and provide comments. That's fine. But in many cases, I can remove another context switch, another application switch, and move things even faster. Another direction and another very important and useful automation is around non-coding tasks that are not directly even related to my PRs and code. In this example, and probably a well-known case where we'd like our code, our Git work, to be linked to our project management, typically Jira or similar. There are conventions and tools to help us do that. I can include the ticket ID or key in the branch name or in the PR title and get that link. Everyone's happy, except that in many cases, developers do not do that, and then either this is like shadow work. No one sees that Git work because it's not related to any ticket. Or a project manager or owner will hunt them down and say, why are you working on something that's not linked? Where is your work? Oh, there's no Jira ticket. Let's create a Jira ticket. That is both too late and annoying. Too late for the product manager to actually enjoy real and correct data in Jira, and annoying for the developer to have to do this out of band. So this automation tells me, hey, you're working on code that is not in Jira. Do you want me to create the Jira ticket for you right here? One click and you're done. So developers love this because they don't like to go to Jira. There are a lot of cases, again, our research shows about 30% of Git work not linked to product management, even in organizations that try to make that happen. There's a lot of quick fixes, or, oh, I'm just seeing a small refactor or a small bug, I'll just do it. I don't want to go to Jira and create a ticket. It's a hassle, it's a bother. With this automation in place, I can rely on Workerbee to help me. I can just start working. Once I put up the PR, I'll get this nice message, click on create Jira ticket, and I'm done. Everyone's happy, I'm happy, no context switch, the data is better, and we've moved faster. So that is another class of dev workflow automation that you want to look at. When you combine the whole thing together, and I'm showing you here examples from how we approach this in LinterB. So there's metrics, obviously, you want to use metrics, the modern metrics like cycle time, etc., to track, to improve, to look at bottlenecks, to do retros, and so on. That is still important. You can you can use workflow at the team level to take on goals. We want to make our PR smaller. Okay, there is a goal around that for the team, and smart Slack alerts through Workerbee that will let us actually treat those PRs better and improve our behavior instead of just waiting for the metric to tell us, oh, there was a problem last sprint. And then the Workerbee application in Slack and MS Teams lets us complete the automation of the workflow through all of the examples I've shown and some more, all around letting me know what's up, what's next for me, letting me know what is expected so I can make smart decisions, really cut down the transition time and idle time between people. So the art of scheduling tasks between people that are all busy, and pushing context all the way down to the developers where they need to make that decision. Am I going to do this now or not? And I mentioned that Jira ticket automation is an example of automating tasks that developers hate, that take them time and move them away from coding, which is what they want to do and what you want them to do as well. Case study for one of our customers, which applying both the metrics to diagnose the problem, with review time being a bottleneck, looking at those automations around goals to notify the team when the review is starting to become long. If my average is 5 days, they have set their threshold at a day and a half, and also a threshold for alerts about large pull requests, because they have a strong correlation there. And then the result, using Workerbee to deploy those automations, is much improved cycle time trend with almost 70% improvement. And this involves the developers. This is not a CTO, like the CTO may have acquired the tool, but the users are the developers. They are adopting, they're using, they're defining their automations, and they are the one enjoying the shorter cycle times and the faster turnaround. Finally, I want to mention another flavor of Workerbee, which is a personal Chrome extension. This is something you could just go to the Chrome web store and use directly. No need for any installation or access to your Git, whatever. This just lives in your browser. And this is all about that envelope. This helps you as a developer push your PRs, your requests for review, make them much better, inject estimated review time and other contexts so that your reviewers can make much smarter and much faster decisions. they don't have to use this as well. Once you're using it, everyone reviewing your code, or everyone you Slack with a link, please review my PR, will have a much better experience, and they will respond faster. So this is, you know, even just one developer in an org can begin to improve and get their PRs merged faster. So I'm done with my content. I'm happy to take questions. I just want to mention our Dev Interrupted community for dev leaders. We have a great podcast. We have a Discord channel. Links are available here in the deck. I'll share that as well. And invite anyone that is interested to actually hop onto LearnerB, free forever for single teams, and begin moving faster.